Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting of 4 November. Anticipate a rather brief meeting today. The main purpose really to close on several items that came up at our last session. Topics today include consulting contract regarding center school, various project updates and discussion, town hall, the emergency services center, water transmission line. Also going to talk briefly about the energy plan. That's a report that's due, plan and report. We're going to close hopefully on a request made at the last meeting concerning support for maintenance of a portion of Jericho Road and various other administrative items. There's no one here for community forum. We'll move right into the first order of business. This has to do with the center school consulting contract and in the way ahead, and we have a representative from the committee, Mr. Bob Bartlett. And Bob, I understand, and the board got a note from the chair, John Wilkes, saying you have met and you have considered the various bidders and you have a recommendation. Can you tell us a little about the process? Before you begin, just one comment. Recall, folks, Town of Hatfield received a grant to conduct a study with respect to center school. One, look at what are the best uses of that school, and two, to do a facility assessment related to those best uses. This is at no cost to the town, and we have had a committee working to, as a first step, come forward with a recommendation with respect to what consulting firm we should enter into negotiations with. I'm sorry, Bob.
Well, we received, I think there were 7 bids, and we narrowed it down to 3 likely contractors or architects, consulting firms. And we took the folks that we thought were the 3 best people, and we interviewed them personally. That was last week. We conducted about 45 minutes each interview, and then once the interviews were done, then we put our heads together and chose who the committee felt would be the best consultant to get the work done and get it done in a timely fashion. And we chose HAI Architecture of Northampton to do the market study, as well as some design and cost analysis on what it would take to make that building usable for what the recommendations were. We don't know which direction they're headed in. We gave these folks our opinions on what we thought, because apparently the Recreation Commission is interested in it. John Wilkes and Buster Szymanski are on the Housing Authority for the Old Age, and they thought that might be a use as well. But we're going to wait and see what the real estate consultants come up with for a market analysis on what the highest and best use is. Of course, there's the grant is for $45,000. That's all the money there is. It's going through Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and Jim Mazik developed the request for proposals, received the proposals, analyzed them, worked with us to boil it all down to these 3 folks. And we recommended who we thought the Board of Selectmen should negotiate a contract. Again, the dollars aren't negotiable, that's all there is. But time is of the essence. We'd like to see, the committee would like to see something produced in timely for the annual town meeting in May, so that if there is some recommendations that have to be taken care of at town meeting, that we have that in hand and ready to go to town meeting floor, whatever direction it heads in. And we also made a second choice, Austin Design Incorporated of Coleraine, in case for some reason HAI Architecture, you folks can't come to an agreement with them, then we felt that was the second best consultant to go with.
Any questions for Bob?
No, all fine.
No, no.
Is there a
I would go on, I would make,
motion to enter in negotiations with HAI as recommended and authorize Mr. Jim Mazik, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, to represent us in the negotiations?
so moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the other thing that Jim asked for was a copy of the minutes or certified portion that we made this vote.
I'll get in touch with Jim today.
Great. Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate it.
Good job.
Yep. Oh, and there is a role, there seems to be some question about the role of the committee. Is it clear to committee members that while Jim Mazik is going to be working the contracting side, the committee still stands until this is all over and you're going to be used as a...
We weren't sure if our
You'll be-
job was done
No.
last time we met, or if we were going to continue on, much the same that happened. I was on the committee for the town hall as well, although I missed a bunch of meetings because I was out sick, but we're going on the assumption that we're continuing on through
Yes.
the remainder of the process all the way up until town meeting, whatever happens at town
Exactly.
meeting, and then we'll go from there, so.
You'll be used
Maybe
as a
even
sounding board with the contractor, but Jim will handle all the contracting, the procurement, all that kind of action.
Right,
So,
right, and I assume, yeah, the contract and the payments and all that, because the grant
Right.
is going through PVPC, so, and we will work with the consultant to work out the details of the marketing and design, and we know there's gonna be remodeling or reconstruction plan over there.
That's all we ask, is that you keep us informed what's going on, that's
Yeah.
all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next item, with skating ring. Mr. Niles was going to try and be here, maybe see coming in later, or I don't know.
I haven't heard anything.
Why don't we take this out of order, and if he comes, we'll address it with him. If not, he has responded to some of the questions that were raised. Something about, there's a question about the water bill and saying the recreation department will pay for the water bill. Couple other things. Another item that came up at the last session had to do with facility responsibilities and clarifying some lanes in the road. I know, Jan, you had expressed some concerns.
Well, I mean, Phil basically, part of his job description is facilities manager, which oversees all the buildings, the town buildings throughout the whole town, and also the fields, and I just think he should have a little bit more responsibility in these two projects. One responsibility is over at the garage out behind the town hall. Whenever we come up with a name, would it make it a lot easier? But I just noticed that they poured like 4 inches of concrete in that other office space because the floor was so uneven that they ended up pouring more.
Over, and
Where the fire is going to be, fire and ambulance.
they had to fill that in, yeah.
Yeah.
Originally, they were supposed to put a wood floor in there and make it all wood, but then somehow the architect changed it to all concrete to level it off.
See, I mean, these are the kind of things that I would like Phil to report back to us as to what is going on, because Phil, maybe you can enlighten us on what we spent in the police department as far as putting in the radiant heat in the floor there. I mean, to me, that's the best way to go, because that's probably the most efficient heat there is.
Well,
We could have gotten that put into this other building, which would have made the floors warm, because I know that was a concern. And then once that concrete heats up, it's going to be warm, and it's going to stay warm.
Just so you,
But the thing is, now, you would have one boiler to operate both ends, and you could get a boiler with on-demand hot water instead of us fooling around with making all these other change orders. So that, I guess that's my complaint is, Phil should have a report back to us along with Paul, so we know what's going to go on.
Just
we
so,
can
just
decide.
so we're clear for the record, none of us knew that the floor was changed. None of us. Phil didn't know, I didn't know, Paul didn't know. We sat at a meeting and we were told that the way, and just by chance, they said something about pouring concrete on the floor, and I said, what do you mean pouring concrete on the floor? And he says, well, we had to change that because, in our bid, because it would have been too much money with the floor. And I said, well, who changed that? And I guess he took it upon himself to change it. Because I asked Jeff if you guys changed it, and he said nobody knew anything about it.
I was surprised when I walked over there and I
To
see the
defend
4
all
inches.
of us, we didn't know anything about the changes. We didn't know about the changes on the floor. We didn't know about the changes on the on-demand hot water heater that was supposed to be in there. They put in 2 electric heaters, 2 electric hot water heaters in the bidding process. There was supposed to be wiring for the overhead projector and the computer system. That wasn't put in, that was forgot. So that's why we're coming up with these extra things here. None of us knew about that
Well,
at
I mean,
all.
I think somebody should
So-
know. Well,
My thing, I guess the lesson to be learned here is, next time we do any kind of project like this here, there'll be no changes with the architect unless it's cleared by the Board of Selectmen. Okay, or Phil, or however you guys want to set it up.
Yeah, I mean,
None of us,
Phil,
Phil,
like
did
I
you
say,
know
Phil-
about any of this?
What's that?
Did you know any about?
I did not know, we didn't know what he knew about the floor.
Yeah, we didn't know anything about it at all.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
it's just-
it's none of our fault.
well, I'm not,
for doing it.
I'm not.
And I'm just saying
pointing
that's what
fingers, But
happened.
what I'm saying is, Phil, I mean, that is his job description, to oversee projects.
Sure.
And Paul is the procurement officer. The 2 of them should be working together on these projects. I mean, whatever happened, happened, but to me, it's kind of a.
Well, I just wanted to clear it, that's
Yeah,
what-
okay, I
that's
mean,
what
I
happened.
don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying, to me, it should have been kind of overlooked by Paul and Phil,
So can we safely
and
say?
have them report, or have whoever made the changes report that directly to those 2, and then they report it back to us.
Okay.
Because to me, that would have been the way to go with heating.
I would like to move that the board authorize Phil to attend all meetings pertaining to construction in the town of Hatfield on our buildings, and any other meetings that are pertinent to his job, that he be there, or an alternative,
I'll second that.
okay?
Any other-
I guess that's the solve solution.
That's all in favor?
Aye.
Well, I have no issue with, I just went back and looked at some of the responsibilities we've given DPW, and as Jan points out, a few years ago, we gave DPW, essentially made DPW the focal point for all facility management issues, construction, from design through execution of the project. Now, we didn't give them any resources to execute that. Originally, we had an advisory committee set up that didn't work out and was finally abolished. We did give him a funding line for facility management to help with any consultant work that he'd need to execute that responsibility. But clearly, we need to protect our interests, and one way of doing that is to be fully engaged. You know, at certain thresholds of contracts, you're required to have
Changes.
clerk of the works and construction manager and those kinds of positions filled. This particular work falls below that threshold. But it really is important to have us represented at the table and engaged and overseeing all these, just protect the town's interests. So I guess the message for Phil is you've got the con here, and with assistance from Paul, to fully engage in all these construction meetings and report back on proposed change orders, so we can assure ourselves that we're within budget. Can quickly get out of hand.
The other thing I'd like to bring up is the town hall, the steps out here that were put in wrong, okay? I don't know if, Phil, you weren't at the meeting, I think you came in late. But anyway, the steps out here, they need to raise them up like 4 or 6 inches, okay? And they're gonna add to the top of that, and I'm saying, no, don't add to the top of it, because every time you add, something breaks, something's gonna flake apart. So I mentioned this to Paul, and Paul, we want a clarification that we want them to take it down and start over if they made a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, if it was
We were
in,
told by the building inspector saw that, and they put them in anyway. So now they're fighting to figure out how to make an amend here, and I don't see any good way. Like I told the contractor, you know, you're responsible for 2 years, and then you're out of here, and then 5 years down the road, we're responsible. So, you know, that's where we're at. And I think we talked about this last time, and we agreed that the steps would be taken out, and the contractor's
At their
expense, and
cost.
put them back in the right way.
right, at the cost of the contractor, not the cost of the town.
So let's, I was going to come to that later on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, let's close on it now, but just to reiterate a couple of key points. The building inspector assured me that the design was correct. He stated to me that he in fact told them that what they were doing was wrong, their plan. They went ahead and did it anyway, and he's told them he's not going to accept it.
Right.
So I don't know what else someone on scene could have done than what our building inspector was trying to do. So in
Well,
any
we had a
event,
subcontractor
is there a
doing
motion
that
that it's the position of the Board of Selectmen that the the southwest corner entranceway is to be corrected? How?
By removing and then reinstalling. Is that the way we want to do it, Phil?
Do a total removal of all the concrete and
And reinstalling the
reinstall
right way.
concrete.
Okay,
So that,
is there a
I'll second.
second?
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, done. Good.
Let them know. And at their
At
expense.
their,
At their expense.
Oh, yeah.
No, because there was also extras, they were trying to figure out a way to put steps in there and all kinds of stuff
Yeah,
now.
no.
And,
that's not going to work.
okay.
Mr. Niles? Yes. Please, come up. Appreciate you coming. Oh, absolutely. There's a mic. This is Mr. Jay Niles, and last week we began some discussion about a proposal from the Recreation Committee to establish a skating rink here on on School Street, adjacent to the fire department.
Yes.
And there were a couple of questions. I think the board consensus was to support the project, but a couple of folks had some questions about some specifics, and appreciate you coming in to be able to address those.
Okay.
One of the things talked about was the type of skating rink you were thinking about doing.
I think Phil had the concern about putting it over the blacktop. I guess I remember all of them. When you put the skating rink over the blacktop, you're going to have to put supporting boards or some kind of a berm around the outside edge. As long as it doesn't pin into the blacktop, okay, then you guys will, that's okay with us, but we wouldn't want to see anything damaged into the blacktop in any way. Also, the other question was the lighting in the area, okay, depending on how late at night and so on, because we want to know what's going to happen there. And also, I think, Jan, you had a question on the water, on how much water is going to be used in there, okay, because that's all coming from the fire department. And we understand it's for town participation and recreation and so on. So I don't know if you guys took any of that into consideration.
Yeah, let me, first the water. Rec will cover any overage on the water bill if we have it. The rinks are usually filled between 12 inches to 16. You're looking at a 75 by 67 rink. So any overage on the water, if we can estimate, the rec will pick up that cost. If the rink's built right, you're using less and less water throughout the year, and that's kind of our goal with that. As far as other parts about the rink, nothing's going to go into the blacktop. In fact, the whole design is based on blacktop. It's similar to what they're doing in Conway on tennis courts. So that'll be taken care of. Nothing's going into the new blacktop. Other parts of the rink that we're using, there's two types of rinks you can get. You can get a professionally built rink from a national company. I've estimated those two out with two companies. They're both in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. They come here on about $1,500 pounds, 500-pound pallets. We're going to avoid that. We're going to go with the way that I think most towns are doing it, which is we get a local carpenter and we just do the 2x12s. We get the tarp, we put the tarp over the boards, and there's lots of ways to pin the tarp down. You can get professional caps that go over, which is sold by a national company for $300. So we're going to go with a homemade design by a local carpenter as opposed to trying to spend $5,000 to get I think, overkill on a professionally designed rink in Minnesota shipped here. Other things, lighting. There is direct lighting over the playground that if you were to turn the light on would provide direct lighting on the rink. Now, I've been there, we've gone there to scout it out, and there is indirect lighting on the rink. It's not bright enough, I don't think, so if we wanted to turn that light on, we could, but I would defer to you on that because I know when we built the basketball courts, there was concern about kids playing basketball at 10, 11 o'clock at night and the sound of the ball bouncing. Our feeling is evening skating between the hours of 5 to 7, 5 to 8 is probably different. It's a different type of community event as opposed to what I think was trying to be avoided with the lighting. So we would leave that up to you. We have access to a light that's over top the playground that could be turned on and fit in, provide the lighting needed for the rink. So.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, that's all, I'm good, and as long as
Bill, do you have
we're
any
clear
other-
on what's, we
I
just
have no
wanted to be
problem.
clear on what's
I'm just
going on.
curious as to how you're going to secure the boards.
Yeah, you run brackets every 4 feet to 2 feet. The carpenter will advise me on that. On cement, you're going to use a wider bracket to provide the support. One reason why we had to look at a national company with a $5,000 rink is because when you go 75 by 67, the water pressure on the outside of the boards is forcing it out. Therefore, our brackets are going to have to run every 4 to 2 feet. I'm going to let a carpenter advise on that, but it's been done successfully in other towns. And when we use 2x12s, it should hold up fine.
Okay, is there a motion to support the skating rink as presented by the rec committee?
So moved.
Oh, second?
Any other discussion?
No?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very, very much, Mr.
Okay, thank
Nelson.
you.
Yeah.
I think folks will really appreciate that.
Yeah, actually, I think they will. Should be a fun event, so.
Wait, one other thing, what's your time frame?
We are shooting for this year. So we're going to try this year. We're looking at the weather patterns. Most towns are building these after New Year's. We would like to get the brackets up and give us an option. You don't lay the tarp down till last. So, well, we might get all the brackets and set up, maybe a luminarium if we could pull it off, if we get a week of solid weather, but our feeling is that's probably not going to happen.
When you're saying brackets, what are you referring to brackets? Some kind of an L-shaped
Yeah.
triangle, like goes out to the dirt area?
It won't be that long. It'll probably be like 3 feet, 2 feet, 2.5.
Okay.
And they'll go every 4 feet along the plywood board, along the 2x12 boards.
Right, just make sure it's marked well, because if it's warm and the kids are playing basketball, they could trip over that stuff. Just keep that in mind. Safety issue.
Once the rink goes in, basketball would be done, so we're taking that into consideration. If we're getting warmer after Thanksgiving.
So you remove the hoop or something?
We're not going to remove the hoop. What we're going to use around the poles is either hay bales or professional padding. We're thinking hay bales probably is better aesthetic look in the winter.
Well, because I can just picture with the ice being there and the kids are going to be on their skates with a basketball.
Yeah, there could be some stuff like that, but hopefully not.
So just make sure that, it's posted, the signs are posted and stuff like that,
Absolutely.
basketball is done.
Okay.
And just one more question. And the water supply's coming from the inside the fire
I
station?
talked to Chief Belden, and they have a hose attachment outside the firehouse for a 1.5-inch hose, which would lead us to a fast fill. So the water supply would be coming from them.
Okay.
And that's where we'd probably estimate the overage, and the rec will cover that with our budget.
Okay. I just want to make sure you're not tapping into a hydrant or anything.
No,
Okay.
no, purposely avoid that. And drainage will all be natural on the grass or however else we're advised to do it. There's also, there is manholes there, to use, so. Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Talk about a few of our projects, just a quick update. Town Hall, how are we doing on schedule, budget? And we just talked about one of the issues, I think we've already resolved that, but are there any others?
Yeah.
Any proposed change orders pending?
Got a couple of things that have to happen out there. Had the state guy come in and check the air quality the other day, and up on that, on the construction part, what he's asking is that we they put some kind of a zipper jacket in there and secure it, make sure that when they start sanding the sheetrock, the dust doesn't come out into the town hall. Also to put some kind of an air fan in the window to ventilate that area to get the dust going out to the outside. That's the only thing he had. The air quality was good, acceptable in the town hall. Downstairs in the Council on Aging kitchen area, when the washer was on, the limits were very high, and at first he couldn't figure out what was going on, but then it was the detergent. When the dishwasher was going and the detergent mixed in, it made the air levels high. So what he recommended is every time they use the dishwasher down there, open up a window, put a box fan in, blow the air out, get it out, get the fumes out. And but other than that, the air quality was good. I guess the average was 35, or the good was 35, the acceptable was 35, and then it climbs from there. But the levels downstairs were around 38 to 40, which were also in that good area. In the kitchen, to give you an example, went up to something like 286 or something like that, 280. So it went sky high. So other than that, the boiler rooms were good. He checked all the rooms. He checked up here. He checked all Paul's office, all the offices, and everything was good.
How about schedule?
Pardon me?
How about schedule? Town Hall.
Yeah.
What's the estimated completion date?
Oh, I can't remember the exact,
Rough.
it's just before Christmas.
Before Christmas?
Yes.
Yeah, December 18th, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah, I think, somewhere around there. So I think we're on schedule. The only thing that I think is behind is work on the bathrooms. And the reason for that is because the servers haven't been moved yet. And actually, I just spent most of the morning dealing with that, because we have to coordinate that with Paragus, our IT guys. So we're looking at and I checked out that room, and yeah, not all of the electrical work is finished in there. We need to run in a line for Comcast, so there's still some work that needs to happen in the room where the servers are going. But it's not a lot of work, so we're really trying to get that move to take place this week. So yeah, the work on the bathroom's a little behind, but I don't think that's gonna, that doesn't really affect the overall schedule. So I think we're in pretty good shape. I want to go back.
Budget?
Pardon me?
How about budget?
We still have approximately $17,000 in contingency.
Okay, but we're
good.
I mean, are you, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they did present, at the last meeting, they presented some change requests in regard to some of the ADA requirements that we will need to do at some point, but they're not really part of this project. And, as I explained to the architect, well, if we were to do these now, and this is in regard to the railings leading up to this room, and modifications in the counter, in the clerk's office, and the secretary's office. If we were to do those changes now, it would pretty much eat up almost the entire contingency. So they're not part of the project. I mean, if we have money left over, then we should and we can afford to do one or both of them, we should, but, you know, it's too early in the project now to commit to that.
My only concern there is, go back to the variance document from the Department of Public Safety. I thought we went back to say that we were going to do that work, and therefore they removed.
Well, yeah,
We could do it, but with our own contractor, instead of having the contractors out here at 3 times the rate.
yeah, we're
Oh,
still
oh,
committed
oh,
to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but maybe not as part of this particular project. We're still gonna have to do
When
it.
they're done, let them get out of here, and then we'll just have our own people come in and do it.
Okay.
That's
okay,
what
I
he's-
understand.
I
But, I
believe
mean,
that's
we're
That's
still,
exactly
we're
what
on
I'm
the
saying.
hook
We're still on the hook.
to get that
Yeah.
done.
We still have to do it,
Yeah.
whether it's part of this particular project or
Or
a
a
separate
separate-
project.
Okay.
We'll have to wait and see. Well, going back to the concrete steps, this is just for your information. This is the proposal from the architect to fix the steps. It's not what we just talked about. If you go to, I think the easiest way to see, if you go to the 3rd page, this diagram.
You got one more? Never mind, I'll look on with Jan.
Yeah. If you go to the 3rd page, I think we're about 3 or 4 inches shy at the top of the landing where the door is. So that would need to be filled in, and then they're proposing that, you know, the steps get raised the same amount all the way down, and then they'd be putting a landing
Right now,
down.
this is the
Yeah.
existing.
Yeah.
They're looking to pour in, I don't know how many inches here, over the top,
And
and
then
then
all the way
down over
down.
every step, all the way down to the bottom.
That's their proposal. I sent the architect an email last week. Yeah, so I had gotten this late on Friday. I sent the architect an email late last week after my conversations with the building inspector and with Phil, and Ed and I were also talking about it. You know, I sent him an email, said, well, the consensus is that steps need to be taken out in the report. I have not gotten a response from him yet, so
Okay,
that's where we're at with that.
okay. Any other questions on Town Hall?
Nope.
The Emergency Services Center, garage, schedule?
Yeah, I wasn't at there was a construction meeting last Thursday, I wasn't there.
Schedule's pretty much right on
Okay.
schedule.
Completion date is what now?
Pardon?
Completion, ECD, the,
Should be around the same, around the 18th, right
I
around
think the
Christmas.
date on that is the 20th.
20th, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They did come up with Mark was working on the figures on putting in that, getting the electric hot water heaters out of there and putting in that on-demand water heater. And it came to something like $2,200 or something like that. The unit, I believe, was $1,800, and then there was $400 in labor or something like that. I would, when that comes in, there'll be a change, and then we can talk about it and discuss it, and whether we approve it or not.
okay. Is that, how about budget? How are we doing on budget there?
The project's still under budget.
So is that the only pending change order, this, on the on-demand?
The only thing that's coming, I think
Only thing
that's the
I'm
only
aware
one
of.
that's coming up.
Okay,
Because the floor was left alone, they poured concrete in there, and that was all part of the contract. The floor that's going back in is part of the contract, there's no changes there. So I think that's about it.
okay, good. Any other,
Oh, the other thing that I had them do is make sure they close up, because they were leaving the big doors open, and it was all access to, and I told them they gotta lock that stuff up. I mean, there was copper, there was all kinds of equipment in there, and over Halloween, so they ended up putting the tracks back on the door, cutting them off, and then putting the door down, securing it. Okay, but they should have done that to begin with anyway. I'm surprised somebody didn't do some stuff over there, but anyway, luckily it didn't happen, so they did take care of that when I brought it to their attention.
Hopefully, this is the last time on this one. Fire department exit. What's the requirement? What are the alternatives? What are the costs? And what are our funding sources? Phil, you got
Well,
Mr. Facilities?
again, we had a, you know,
We got one, that was the 8,500.
right, we had a
12 by
rough
12.
estimate, and then, you know, we're going back to the drawing board again and again and again. So, I mean, that is the cost estimated for the 12 by 12 porch.
We got that one.
I'm also working on a print for that, for the root system.
And if we just cover the existing doorway, it's a couple $1,000s. Changing out the door and building a small roof on top of what's existing.
Cut the walls down or take
The
the
walls
walls?
down, put 2 posts right on the existing walls and build a small roof.
Where's the funds come?
What's that?
Where are the funds going to be coming from? Do we have, Ed was saying something, there may be some money left in the demolition? Was it demolition or?
No,
the
there's
old
only
building?
$500.
There's $542 or something like that.
What can you do with that? Door?
Give it back. Because you can't use it anyways because the way that the article was structured for demolition.
Right. Well, I'm kind of.
I still think it's important to look on how that's gonna look when it's complete.
I mean,
Come up with 2 different plans and bring them here next meeting.
well,
So
that
we
was,
can-
that was
so we
just
can
a,
look at it.
the only thing I can say is that
That's
the
what I
12 by 12 was just a rough estimate from somebody. So, I mean, with a print in front of some people, maybe the price changes one way or the other, either more or less. So I think we really can't have a good number till we get something that we can physically look at.
Okay,
Okay,
but let's
Miles, I
not
gotta
drag
call
this
into him
on
and
forever.
he'll set us up.
Let's, all right, Ed was working with you on the design for that, and then you're gonna do the smaller version, and we'd get prices on them, and we'll bring it back then. But let's not dilly-dally on this. Dike stabilization. Last time, Jan was out visiting the site some time ago. This is stabilization of the dike at the end of Bridge Lane, just to the north. They had done a portion, and it appeared as though we ought to be doing that additional 160 feet or so that would marry up with some work that had been done on the dike.
Thought we voted
Just-
last week on
Just,
that.
just to the south. And we voted to support, to go back and say, yes, we support the project. And town administrator had determined that there was still additional money left in the original authorization, such that we could do our cost share. And it may range, I don't know, 7,500 to 15,000, depend on what the final cost is. And the Mass Emergency Management Agency could fund the rest. There were some things, though, hanging. CEI, our consultant, asked that we contact the Conservation Committee with some questions. Have we done that?
All they gotta do is basically, it's, if they're the ones that are gonna be coming in, they should be the ones that get a hold of, have them get, and I talked to Paul about it, I don't know if, what's his name from EL, or AEL,
Nick?
Nick,
Christofori.
Yeah.
is, did he get a hold of Wilma? Because if once he schedules a meeting, I mean, it's kind of hard for us to schedule the meeting, because he's the one that's requesting it, from what I
Okay.
understand. I mean, he came in the last time, so if he schedules a meeting, we can do it
Anytime.
basically.
Yeah.
Well, here's what what Nick asked for. One, he asked for a letter, a town letterhead, saying that the Conservation Committee acknowledges the project, agrees with the measures being proposed, doesn't envision any environmental impact, and looks forward to working with the contractor and CEI. That's one thing he was asking for. And the other thing he was asking for, what will conservation require for permitting? The bottom line there is he wants to spend the money on the construction, not on permitting. And he was going to do a bunch of things to avoid Army Corps of Engineer and some other things that would be triggered there. So
I mean, I'm only speaking from as one
I
member.
no, I
but
understand.
If it's basically they're doing the same work, I don't see a problem with it. But again, he has to come in to present it, not me.
Right,
You know.
right.
Okay.
Well, let me work that. See if
All
I
right.
can
So you'll get
coordinate
with
that,
Nick and
Yeah, and Wilma.
get him.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, as I understand it, well, number one, the current work is completed and they've exited the site.
I think, yeah, when I talked to him, Mr. Cristofori last, he expected them to be done at the end of October, so.
Yeah, they're gone. They've got it all cleaned up nicely, and there's some plantings in there, and that section's done. It was, I think it was you were telling me, or Phil, really they're not talking about doing this again until next.
It'll be next
Well,
fall.
it'll be a year.
It'll be next
A
fall.
low water
Right.
again.
Right.
So
I thought it was going to be all part of this this plan.
I thought they, while they were still
Yeah.
mobilized, that they'd take care of it right then, but not so fast.
But again, you know, that was my concern about them remobilizing here, and I guess the discussion with Sumco, the contractors, they're just going to extend their contract to include this other 160 feet, which the remobilization won't be any more costly. They know what the budget will be, so.
Okay. All right, so you're going to get with CEI, Nick. Let me skip one, we'll come back to it, Channel 15. Phase 2, water transmission line.
Gesundheit.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
As you know, town meeting approved a project, first phase anyway, of bringing a new water transmission line down from the reservoir to the center of town. The first phase of that would be coming down Rocks Road, crossing Route 5 and 10. And the original plan was to use the utility bay on the Chestnut Street Bridge going over Interstate 91. However, subsequently, the state has determined that it's in need of significant repair, or there's significant corrosion. And that's driven us to replan and look at putting the pipe underneath Interstate 91. And then continuing on through this phase to the Mill River and up to the intersection, or the area of Chestnut Street and Gore Avenue in that area. That change from the original plan of using the utility bay to going under Interstate 91 drives the cost of the project up about $300,000. So there's a $300,000 shortfall. I guess what I'm just throwing out, we don't have to close on this today, but appears to be two ways to go on that. One, I mean, we could go back in a special town meeting, because the time frame that CEI is proposing that we get this, have these funds available, will be about the March-April time frame, so they could continue work. That would be one approach. And a second approach would be to simply go as far as we can with the current funding allocation, which may not then get us over the Mill River and up, as far as we originally planned, and put the remainder of the work in the phase 2 that we'd come back with in a few years.
I'd like to know where we stand with the state. I know Phil, you talked with Peter Colcott.
I did.
That, to me, comes under emergency funding, I would think. Okay, I think they might think different, but I think we ought to pursue and not let that go, because, I mean, that's what that bay is there for originally, and for them to tell us we can't use it because their bridge is not capable of holding the weight, okay, I mean, they're gonna have to come up with some kind of alternative to help us. It's not fair that we spend $300,000 to take care of their problem. So that's an issue there that I'd like to fight, at least with the state, okay? I don't think it's right. I mean, those bays are there for our use, okay? And for them to say that the bridge is not sturdy enough to hold this, I think we have legitimate reason to go after additional funds on an emergency level. And I'd like to see if you can pursue that, and I'll certainly call Peter myself. And
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I contacted him in regards to this project, and, you know, he called me back immediately and, you know, told me to send him everything that we had concerning that bridge, and I did, and that was the end of the line. I haven't heard back from him. Maybe a letter from the Board of Selectmen to him, saying, you know,
maybe,
this is our concern, you know, it's driving the cost of the project up $300,000.
well, I'd like to make a motion that the board have Paul send a letter to them stressing our opinion and really trying to force them to help us out here. I mean, we're putting in a couple $1 million worth of money in this whole project, and for them to add that much more burden on the taxpayers, that's not fair, all because of their problem.
You know, when we went to town meeting, we came in under the, you know, under the assumption that was going through that utility bay, and that was the cost of the project, so.
It's 2.52 million, now it's 2.82 million.
Maybe they can take, if they're gonna allow Route 5 water and sewer to come up, maybe add that right into the cost.
That's good.
Okay?
Well, I mean, I think it's worth a letter to him.
Well, I'm surprised, Peter is usually pretty responsive. Paul's not here right now. He may have had some discussion with Diana. But you made a motion.
I'd like to move that
All right,
we
let's
send a letter-
formally, I think it is
Formally
worth,
send a letter requesting assistance on this matter of $300,000, that it be taken from state emergency funding because of the situation, and pursue it that way.
well, let's not designate what pot it comes out of, but just asking for the funding support.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I agree. I was, basically, said that right off the bat
Yeah, well,
when we found out, but I would also like to send a letter not just to Peter Colcott, but to Stan Rosenberg,
Dan
too.
Rosenberg, absolutely.
Okay, so
Both of them.
I will second that,
All right.
with that amendment.
As amended. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's great. Well, he's not here right now. We got two things we'll come back to, the Channel 15 and the energy plan. Proposed reply to Jericho road maintenance request, and again, I need to recuse myself. But I can't say, it might be helpful if you just define the problem. As someone just listening to the conversation the other day, I wasn't totally clear myself what was being requested. And then wherever you are.
I don't know, from what I got out of it, the contractor would like us to help maintain that road beyond a sign that basically says we are taking care of the road beyond that point. I think he was asking for some millings.
Yeah, he was asking for some materials and to continue our part of maintenance past the original sign of no maintenance. You know, I went and looked at it again and thought about it pretty hard, and I think that I would really not like to do anything there, and the only reason I'm saying that is because there's a lot of farm roads in this community. There's a lot of roads that we do no maintenance to, and to set a precedent of doing something like that there is just going to open up the door for other people to come in and ask for the same request.
Well, I think we better have the building inspector come in and discuss this, okay? Because if he issues the permits, then he's putting us in a situation that we don't want to be in.
I guess my question is between you and Ed, what if they were to take that over? I mean, if they want to spend the money themselves, the 4 parcels or whatever that want to spend the money to bring it up to our standards, which, again, I got to talk to Paul because he was going to get a hold of the attorney to find out for sure about the 16-foot, but I'm pretty sure the 16-foot.
We can ask them to do that.
You know, the 16-foot, I mean, we can supply them with the millings. If they want to get some gravel in there, I wouldn't have a problem. I don't know, what are we going to do with all the millings anyway?
Gravel is not going to do it, Jan. You really need to dig that
No, I
road
know,
out.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
you know,
You
dig
need
it
to
down.
get a base in there.
And put a base of gravel, and then if they want, I wouldn't put the millings on until it gets real hot, because otherwise, you
The
know.
questions that I had were, it's only 16 feet wide for emergency vehicles going down, and where's the turnaround going to be, or whatever, for emergency and plows and everything else. Okay? The issue is not really the plowing, because that's the easy part to keep it maintained. The hard part is getting the base in and getting so it doesn't get into soupy mud in the spring.
Right.
Okay, so that's why you're looking at 16 feet for about, what'd I say, 1,000 feet. So I don't know if you came up with some kind of figure with that, Phil, or not, digging it out and...
I didn't. I'm stating that I don't want to set a precedent of rebuilding a road
Okay.
that somebody knew going into it of the conditions. I understand there is houses going in there. I understand that he has some options on the lots there. The road's clearly marked, no maintenance beyond this point, and I think that's something that we shouldn't take on. It's a 16-foot, one-rod road. Who's to say then after that point that they're not going to keep going? If he wants to upgrade the road on his own dime, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You know, if he wants to make it,
Okay. Did we check with town council?
Paul
That's,
was supposed to call.
Paul was supposed to call him. I talked to Paul about it the other day,
All right.
last week. When was it? Friday, I think? Friday.
Other than that, I'd still like to move like I did last time and take it under advisement until we have the answers. Certainly not a dead issue. I don't feel it's a dead issue at all.
All right, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We talked very briefly about Community of Innovation Challenge grant proposals, if any, and DLTA. We're both kind of focused on regionalization, and some of the examples that we had were some things that Northampton and others were doing. And last time we were just going to come back. If anyone had anything, fine. If not, we'll drop it for this round.
I don't have anything to
Okay. Did you have anything, Ed? I'm assuming that's a no. Schedule. Now, again, town administrator has escaped us here.
I think if you look back at what we did last year, Jeff, you're going to see the same thing is going to happen again this year. I know you try to get everything out ahead of time, but usually nothing comes in until March. You know, cherry sheets and everything doesn't happen until March anyway. We can get all our paperwork out and get it in, but like last year, you saw what happened last year and the last couple of years. So richly, that's been that way every year. Sometimes we don't find out for budget reasons right up until the end of March, into April sometime. So no matter how hard you push, we're still waiting for figures and stuff.
Well, our town bylaw requires folks to submit their capital budget items by the 1st of December. So we've already got a tentative schedule for all those hearings. We'll have that wrapped up early part of January in terms of the presentation
I mean,
for
we
the-
can meet with,
for the Board of Selectmen. Now, I'm talking about the sessions with the various staff to understand what their requirements are.
But I thought we solved that, or resolved that Paul was gonna go through them and,
Well, that's a good question. Did we? Did we all agree that we're going to let Paul do a first cut at these?
yeah, I don't
I
know if
mean,
we...
if there's any discrepancy, then I think it needs to come to us. I don't
Well,
think.
at the end of the day, we need to understand the whole budget. There's no question there. But we had some discussion and about letting Paul take a more significant role in at least doing a first cut. So we're all agreed that's the way we'll go ahead?
I think
All right,
we
then we
should,
can wait
yeah.
until he has that first cut. And,
Oh, he's here, so we can discuss it with him. All right, because I feel if somebody, well, Paul, we're discussing the role of the budget and how we talked about you doing the first cut.
Yeah,
I feel myself that
Okay.
if there's a department that has a need for increasing their budget, then they need to bring it to us and we all discuss it and go that route. And that should be all our discussion, not just, you saying, no, that's not going to happen, or yes, that's going to happen.
well, all right, so we're revisiting an earlier discussion about your role in the budget process. And there's consensus that we'd like you to take a stronger role and essentially on the operating budget, do a first cut, i.e. Meet with the various departments, gather their requirements, identify any issues, those type of things, and then subsequently you'll come
Bring it
back
to
with
the
us
board,
and
yeah.
we'll selectively meet with the various departments where
Yeah.
there's particular things that need to be resolved, but otherwise you'll do that first round.
No, that's fine with me, and it's not an unusual role for the administrator to be in that position.
Okay, good. So we'll wait on you, instead of trying to set up times for operating budget hearings, to tell us who we should be meeting with, and
Sounds good.
You should be
set that
ready,
up.
he should be ready in 1st of March.
Well, there's a schedule published,
Yeah.
published
That's
schedule
what it
of
is.
all the budget items.
You got the month of February, January, February to review everything, get everything under,
Yeah,
and then,
works for me.
Okay. Energy plan and annual report, you ever get your input from Guardian?
I contacted them last week, and Matt got back to me and said, I'll have it to you by next Wednesday. So that's this coming Wednesday. So yeah, once I get that, and actually I talked to the chairman of the Energy Committee this morning, and I'll need to coordinate with them. Once I get that report, then I can start wrapping up the 5-year plan, and then get it to the Energy Committee and to the board for review before I submit it to DOER. So it's due the 3rd of December, so your next meeting is on the 20th. So,
That's correct.
I'm going to want to have a draft plan ready for your review at that
Okay,
meeting.
that's fine.
Actually, before that meeting.
the committee, they're working with you, and,
Yes.
they're supposed to be working with you.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that's happening. If it's not happening, then we need to talk to them.
Yeah, one thing that Matt from Guardian said is these projects that they're developing, they've been, want to max out the utility rebates that we get. So I guess that's one of the things that's been kind of slowing them down, because the utilities have not been, all that quick to respond to some of these things. So, but he told me Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where we are. That's fine.
I-
So-
I know this is a little bit out, and it comes under really town hall, but I'm curious on the windows for the town hall. Where does that stand for the auditorium?
I'm trying to,
I forgot to ask about
we
that.
had, the windows have been ordered. I think I was told that it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks. So when I go back downstairs, I'm going to ask and see what the status is. But they should be arriving within the next week or two.
Okay. The reason I ask is
We didn't have that in your energy program, right?
No. Well, because I inquired of the engineer, well, can you calculate, any energy savings, if at all, from this project? And they got back to me and said they didn't think there would be any.
Okay.
So, but we'll see, we'll
I can't help but think we
Yeah, well,
have some savings.
I think so too, particularly after I had a conversation with some of our energy committee members, and I didn't realize this, but the cupola, is open,
Yeah.
and so that whole
it's closed up now.
it's closed.
I thought somebody
Gary
sealed it off.
Galvani put
All that metal's out of there.
it's all sealed in there now.
Sealed up
Yeah.
tight.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like all the ductwork that was in there, that went from downstairs all the way up. I thought that was all taken out.
All right. Oh well, that's good. Because
There's no draft going
they
up in
were
there.
the whole stage area was acting like a chimney and just.
But I
sucking
did
out.
notice a broken window on the south side as I was driving in here, so I mean, that air is gonna be coming in through the window too.
Yeah.
From the
So
construction, and something must have happened.
yeah, we'll take a look at our utility bills next year and for the town hall and see where we stand. I mean, if our our energy usage is going to be tracked, so we'll know.
Now, there is some kind of provision in this where you change use or something, and
That will be.
for example, we may have more energy use, like in the
Right.
garage, the emergency services area. There's a way somehow that can be calculated or addressed
Yeah, well,
in
that's
the
something I
plan.
have to talk to Jim Berry about.
There's a way so we don't get
Yeah.
penalized for
Right.
making
I
improvements.
need to, once I get it, well, he's the other person I need to run this by before it gets submitted. And,
Okay.
I'll need to set up a meeting with him, because, it was as part of the 5-year plan, we're looking to reset the baseline year, and so.
All right, you'll have that for our next meeting?
You'll have a draft, yeah.
If
Could
all
do right
goes
after
according-
that.
If all goes according to plan.
How about Channel 15?
Yeah, we're going to go back. Well, we really have to have it because
Yeah.
it's due the 3rd of December, no kidding.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I fully understand.
Channel 15,
Well,
spend plan.
I've been talking to our station manager and asked him to, basically prepare a capital plan. But haven't gotten that yet.
Okay, well. All right.
Though he did tell me this morning that he needs at least one new camera, probably 2.
We have the monies available for all that.
And once our,
Pretty much. I said, we do have the monies available for that.
We have
got-
the money. We
That's
have the money.
Yeah.
my point. We need the spend plan.
Yeah.
okay, so
we-
he should maybe be gearing up
You know-
towards using the meeting space downstairs on
Yeah.
preparing what
But
needed.
the things John and I have been talking about is, getting wireless microphones, basically creating a more portable system than what we got now. Wireless microphones, spending some money on the meeting room, to make that function as best as possible. We're going to need some cameras, and we need new equipment at the station. We need at least a new computer, and there's a lot of two new computers.
We also
So-
should have a PA system in that room, so when somebody's out there talking, if they've got a soft voice, you can hear them
Yeah,
throughout.
yeah, that would be part of
Okay.
the plans for the room. So, yeah, we've been talking, we haven't put anything in writing yet, but we're thinking about it.
Okay. You'll have something for the next meeting for us?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Looking for commitment.
No, let's, so we don't lose some of this stuff. There was a,
I'm being summoned again. This is all about the servers.
well, did you have anything before you, for us?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
There was a, pardon? We're not going to set any right now. There was a copy of a document that the Deerfield Board of Health issued concerning a piggery.
Yep.
And we just asked for a copy because there's been some complaints about an activity here in town. Did you have a chance to read that?
I did, I read the whole thing.
Were you, I was simply unaware there's so many regulations that apply to,
Well, some
the
can,
operation.
I mean, the operation that's out there is on a small scale. He doesn't run, that's not his only business. His business is the seed and feed and everything else there. I don't know how much can be applied to that. When you start restricting, then you're restricting farming, okay? And that's a whole nother issue, okay? You got to be careful on what's restriction and what's allowable. Some people are allowed to do it, and then he's going to say he can't do it, or the minimum. I mean, you could set probably requirements as to how many pigs that he could have on the premises, that kind of thing. Okay.
well, it had things like, there's a Massachusetts
valuable
law
tool.
governing all persons collecting and transporting garbage through a town to have a permit. All garbage has to be cooked processed within 48 hours.
That's part of the food process on feeding the animals. That's a law. Mass general laws govern that.
All kinds of rules about, okay, as long as,
And the time that I went out and did the inspection, like I said, there was nothing that was out of place. There wasn't everything was a mess like what was said. It was all palletized and so on. So, that's what I observed when I went out, and that's what my report reflects.
okay.
But that is
I
a
guess my
good.
question is, okay, you oversee the health into this now, okay? Now, who oversees the actual, I mean, us as a board, we don't oversee who basically is allowed to have animals, who isn't. It's
Animal control officer, basically,
Right.
that's his job.
Right.
Okay, but the Board of Health gets called out when there's an issue out there, okay? If there's a health issue, then that's a whole nother story. We have to make sure that the animals are being fed
Right,
properly, that
right.
kind
I'm
of
just
stuff.
saying, us as a board,
Us as a board
we
doesn't have
don't,
any
we don't really
any
get
jurisdiction over that.
involved in the jurisdictions of who has them, who doesn't.
Well, we don't get involved in the Board of Health issue. We
Right.
do get involved in the animal control.
Animal control, right,
Right, okay.
yeah.
But I'm saying, well, okay, let's take it as a zoning issue. Again, that goes to the zoning board of appeals, I would imagine, not us.
Yeah, exactly, that's exactly right.
I mean, I'm just trying to clarify
For
for
somebody
people
to
that
say that you can't
everybody
have pigs
thinks,
on
you
your
know,
property,
if they come to see us, we just go out there and tell whoever it is, no, you're not gonna do it. There is a process to
you
go
can,
through.
yeah, there's a process that you gotta go through, and the advisement
Right.
is to send them to the proper boards,
Okay.
depending on the issues. Yeah. Because it falls into play with, the building inspector, zoning,
Right.
he's the
Zoning
zoning
enforcement.
officer.
Right.
It falls under Board of Health, it falls under Planning Board, it falls under Scotty Pomeroy is Animal Control. Yeah. So we all get involved in it, depending on the situation.
Just reading this, I was surprised at how many
But this was a-
rules and regulations
Yeah.
and law applies to the operation of some small activity.
But this
like
is also a guy that's not
I understand.
working with them,
Understand.
okay?
So they're probably a little more heavy-handed.
Yeah,
Any other items for today?
that's all I have.
Motion to adjourn?
So, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.